Well, good evening, race fans. Welcome back to Simple Racing Broadcast, where it is Thursday night, which means only one thing. It is time for round 8 of the Tasman Racing League Road Series. My name is Jared Cole, and I'm joined, as always, by Boone Blake in the booth. Tonight we arrive at one of the most iconic and technically demanding circuits you'll find anywhere in motorsport. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is apparently good enough to trip my mouth up, much less the drivers, as they make their way around here. Racing has happened here since around 1957, and it's a track that every sim racer, just about everywhere, knows in some way, shape or form. From the chaos of that Andretti hairpin right through the rest of the track, you of course get to the Corkscrew, which is a completely blind crest, followed by a drop that is really hard to really fathom when you look at it on a screen. So we'll hope tonight to bring you just a little bit of that action. There's only a few rounds remaining, of course, in this season, and so the championship battle itself is starting to really heat up. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Boone, welcome back to the booth. First of all, good to have you with us again. How much are you looking forward to Laguna Seca?
First of all, it's always great to be back, and this is one of the most exciting races on the entire calendar for me. Laguna Seca is probably the most historic and the most iconic road course in the entire United States, and it's a racetrack that plays well with pretty much any kind of car. From Clios and Miatas all the way up to GT3s and Formula cars, it's something that there's really no kind of car that doesn't play well at Laguna Seca, and it's going to be incredibly exciting to see how these drivers deal with it. Like you said, it's a track where pretty much everyone's raced extensively before. I think most drivers in the field are going to have a lot of experience with this track, and I think we're going to see a lot of different drivers who have a chance to contend for the win today.
And certainly as qualifying goes on in the background, we are seeing the epitome of that with some really fast times across a massive group of drivers. In fact, the first 6 drivers at the moment only a half second apart. To give us that perspective tonight, we are joined by a very special guest in the booth this evening, none other than number 1 Matt Searle joins us in the booth. Matt, welcome on in. It's a shame you've got some hardware issues happening tonight that keep you out of the race, but it'll be good to grab your insight on some of the challenges for the drivers here tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. Shame I missed, but I'm a racing fan first and foremost, so I'm really excited for what should be a cracking race.
We'll take a very quick look at the championship standings before we get into the grid, and Matt Webber at the moment holding just a 36-point lead out in front. 3 rounds to go. There's not a lot of time for drivers to try and catch up to him. Brian Roy and Drew Collins in their own battle for the 3rd step on the podium, and then a bunch of other battles going on right down throughout the rest of that podium. We will take another look at that a little later on. I'm always conscious that as we start to get towards the end of qualifying, our championship has this nasty little habit of wanting to just stay on screen for us a little bit longer than we want it to. So we'll come back and take a deeper look at that perhaps as we get around on the formation lap. Matt, to you, in terms of your experience with this track, with trying to get a GT3 around here quickly, what is it that the drivers need to accomplish tonight? What is the key to conquering Laguna Seca, in your opinion?
In my opinion, just keeping the car balanced. The testing I've done during the week and the few times that I have raced this in the past, the car has a tendency to just sort of both oversteer and understeer depending on how you brake. So very technical track. Just got to keep that car balanced and be as smooth as you can.
That's always the way, isn't it? Just the smooth is fast. Always smooth is fast. It's a very easy thing to talk about, but to actually do it is a whole other thing altogether. And you come somewhere like Laguna Seca with the insane elevation changes that you're dealing with here, it can be something that just kind of disappears out of your mind as you get to that first hairpin for the first time. I'm going to ask for predictions from both you gentlemen. How long do you think it'll be before we do see a car off the track?
I reckon probably turn 1, we'll see a car off.
Turn 1? Now, are we counting the kink as turn 1?
Yes, I reckon we'll see a car go off at that kink.
Boone, any thoughts from your end, mate?
I think we're going to get through the first lap pretty clean. I think everyone's going to be really cautious on cold tires. I don't think we'll see anyone off until the last corner of the first lap, but I think it'll be a multiple car accident.
All right, so you're going for late but spectacular. All right, let's see how this one plays out. The grid for your start tonight, Chris Murray takes pole just 0.124 ahead of Matt Webber, then Shannon Corbett and Lewis Bahaja on row 2. Nicholas Heath and Chris Fitzgerald behind them, with Oscar Dobbins and Jeremy Newton on the 4th row. Daniel Bellicott and Tim Pattinson rounding out your top 10. Ahead of them, behind them rather, Stephen Scully and Martin Hallinan ahead of Lucas Blake and David Noden. Then Joe Della Rosa and Ben Christian, with Patrick Robinson and Greg Goodfellow in his first race with us tonight. Dale Horn and Manuel Dodra on the track in 19th and 20th. Then Brody Daff for the first time here tonight as well, alongside Jordan Nelson. Matt Searle won't be on the grid, unfortunately. He'll be here with us. But Zach Leedstrom, Matt Horn and Darryl O'Sullivan not setting qualifying times. So that does mean that they won't be starting any further up than the back of the pack. And we will get down to the track now and get ready to get underway. Laguna Seca, a full pace lap behind the safety car, which in some respects is probably not a bad thing for us, because it gives us an opportunity to go back and have a bit of a look at the championship standings in just a moment. In terms of the quick drivers out there tonight, you know, we were talking before the race, Boone, around expecting the usual suspects, right? Chris Murray and Matt Webber to be up front, and certainly that's where they've landed, but it didn't look that way as qualifying was happening in the background. We've had some absolutely blistering times from Corbett, from Bahaja, from Heath Fitzgerald. I think that Webber especially is going to have to really pull out of his bag of tricks that massive speed we've seen on cold tyres, or he's going to have a huge amount of competition right on his tail.
I think so. Neither of these two drivers can get too focused with what their championship protagonist is doing. Of course, they're going to want to defend. They're going to want to have the edge over the other championship driver. But neither one of them can get distracted, because you've got a Lewis Buhagiar waiting in the wings. You've got a Shannon Corbett waiting in the wings, who's had some great runs all season. He's had great pace. The run hasn't materialized for him this season, but this could be the race where we see it happen for him. The field, really, I think all the way back to about Lucas Blake, Jeremy Newton, we've got drivers who have a ton of experience at this track. I spoke to Lucas Blake before the race. He's starting 12th, but he thinks he can win this race. That's how deep this field goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. The championship standings, will come back to these again just while the drivers do make their way around. In the background, some really, really close battles. You know, Hallinan and Searle, look, I don't know, Matt, if you're going to stay quite as engaged in that battle for fifth after tonight's race, but you're right there in amongst it after last week, so that's something. Nicholas Heath only a few points back, Bradley Austin 1 point further back, so there's a couple of really tight battle packs right throughout the championship standings. I don't know, 3 rounds left including tonight. I don't know if anyone can actually catch Matt Webber absent a pretty horrible result at some point for him.
We've seen Webber look not quite in the same dominant form he was in the early and middle parts of the season over the last couple weeks. He finished a little bit down the order last week, and Chris Murray had the measure of him the week before that. It's going to be key for Murray to get out ahead here and stay out ahead, but if he can finish ahead of Matt Webber, he'll be able to keep his championship hopes alive for at least one more week.
Well, let's see how this shapes up as the drivers do make their way down from the Corkscrew for the first time, but next time around, of course, it'll be at a much higher rate of knots. The BMW safety car on its way into the pits now as Murray and Webber take control of the field, getting towards this final hairpin. And always messy when you have a hairpin like this to end your formation lap. It results in the field really bunching up in a big way here, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to see as we do get underway, but Murray and Webber lead us off towards the green flag. As we come to the line, we are underway. Lap 1 of 40 here tonight. Murray leads us down for the first time to this very, very tricky left-hander. Let's see if everyone does get through cleanly. Already the driver's starting to get into a bit of a pace line pretty early on, knowing that there are going to be a few issues. And that's Lewis Bahaja off immediately. So, look, I'm almost prepared to call that turn 1 fully Matt Searle, but yeah, not wrong. That was... It was always going to happen somewhere there. I think it's really, really tough to come down that hill and at pace on cold tyres, but Murray and Webber having no such issues out in front. Heath, Corbett, Newton and Dobbins not too far behind either, as they're 2 and 3 wide out of the exit as we come up the hill to start the climb up, ready for the corkscrew for the first time. I don't know if I'm ready for this, gentlemen. Boone, what are your thoughts here?
Oh, we've got a car off in the background. I think that was Jeremy Newton for a second. He looks to have saved it. It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers navigate this on cold tires. I would not be trying to take this too wide, but some drivers are brave enough to try it. A few drivers brave enough to try it. It looks like we're all going to get through safe so far. A couple off into the interior runoff, but it seems like everyone is going to get through the corkscrew the first time safe. That is... Oh, and we've got a car way off in the runoff at the second to last turn there. I'm not sure who that was.
Oscar Dobbins has gone around as well. It's
I think that could have been Matt Horn. I think that was Horn off at the second to last corner. He's lost a lot of time, and he's down to last on the road in 24th position.
Wow, that's a much more eventful opening lap than I was probably expecting. The two out in front, though, of course, Murray and Webber enjoying the fact that they're not going to get caught up in any of this. They've got their own little battle already starting to shape up, and immediately 2 seconds out in front. That is a much, much bigger gap than I was expecting, considering how tight the qualifying times were, and it just shows just how important it is to get a clean run on that first lap. Already you can see Webber starting to just test Murray a little bit as he looks up the inside of that turn, settles back in behind. It's a really, really tough track to pass on. Matt, over to you on this one. If you're out there and you're looking for an early position or two here, where are you setting up to make the pass? Because I can't think of a really good spot to get it done here.
The two best places for me are into the Andretti hairpin if you're bold enough to dive down the inside, and the other one, obviously, the corkscrew. Very, very tough to defend there if someone's on the inside of you. But yeah, those two are probably the best places to make an aggressive move early on. Otherwise, maybe down the main straight, like we might see here from her, if you can actually have a good run out of the last two.
We saw there De La Rosa almost finding himself under attack from Lucas Blake through the corkscrew. And in the end, Blake just not quite far enough up alongside to be able to actually make the move stick, but he was certainly threatening for a moment there. You can see already a really, really spaced out front part of this field. You get back into this group here, and Lewis Bahaja now alongside Ben Christian on the way down to the hairpin. He's up the inside. He's going to have to be careful on the brakes here, but gets the position up into 16th, and he'll start looking to move forward again and just try and recover from that early spin.
I feel like a broken record this season with how many times I've said these exact words, but just a really unfortunate situation there for Lewis Buhager. I feel like he's been on the wrong end of a lot of incidents, especially on the road side of things this season. Continues on lap 1 there, had a really promising start to his race come undone. He's made up a lot of progress. He's already back to P16, so he's made up about 10 places on the road already, but every position moving forward is just going to get more and more difficult.
Yeah, and this is I reckon one of the hardest tracks to actually find an easy pass. You've really got to work for every single position. And as you said, the further up through the field he goes, the more and more difficult that's going to become, just by nature of this pace of these drivers as we get up through there. Fitzgerald's picked up a black flag somewhere, somehow already. So whether that's actually what I think that might have been, I don't know if I missed this a little earlier, but I think Chris Fitzgerald was actually the one that ran off track, and I wonder if he's maybe been through the pits and picked up a speeding infraction or something similar. Surely he's not picked up enough incident points to have accumulated a black flag on lap 4 of this race.
I'm sure he's...
He actually made contact with the number 24 heading into the corkscrew, and he was also the one that made contact with Oscar Dobbins there at the start, so he could well have picked up enough incident points for a drive through.
Well, that's very, very early, and
that's rare.
Yeah, look, not impossible, and if any track's going to do it to you, Laguna Seca could absolutely be it. There's not a lot of margin for error. It's not a particularly wide track, and it's one of the few tracks I reckon that actually makes GT3 cars look really big on it. They look like the full-size sedans that they are, as opposed to a lot of the tracks that we've seen this season where there's actually room to go 3 or 4 wide at various points. You just don't get that here at Laguna Seca. It's really not mattering too much for Murray and Webber, though. They're nose to tail and continuing in that fashion. Nicholas Heath, though, keep an eye on him. He's starting to just chew away at the lead these two have built up. It was out to 2 seconds. Heath's got it down now to just under 1 second, so he's starting to reel them in here. Murray will be keeping a very close eye on Webber behind to see just what happens, but Heath sets the fastest lap at 21.4. That is ridiculously fast.
That was magnificent from Nicholas Heath. He's now 1.2 seconds behind but it looks good for Chris Murray right now. He survived the initial onslaught from Matt Weber on the cold tires. That's where Weber has the majority of his pace in these races, is in the first few laps. Now Murray's tires are up to temp. He's going to have a bit more of a pace advantage on Weber, I would think.
Now, this is something that I've been keeping a really close eye on this week, gents. Chris Fitzgerald, sitting there with that black flag, I'm always concerned that he doesn't actually know he's got it. We've seen it happen a couple of times in a couple of different leagues over the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, since the new UI really, where drivers haven't seen his black flag. So keep a very, very close eye on Chris here. He is absolutely at risk of not actually clearing this one if he hasn't seen it. You only get 3 laps to serve that drive-through, and iRacing will very unceremoniously boot you back to the pits if you don't actually serve that within that time. So just keep an eye on that as Vahaja goes flying through on Goodfellow. I think Goodfellow just outbraking himself there and had to just sit off to the side and let that happen. Rob Tilley joins us in the chat, says, go Rob Tilley. Mate, you are absolutely flying out there. I'm not seeing a single mistake on track for you, so go you good thing.
We've got a car stopped in the middle of the track. First of all, it appears that Chris Fitzgerald has in fact been sent unceremoniously back to the pit lane, as you described, Jared. And I believe we had the Jordan.
That's a good thing.
I believe we had the Jordan Nelson machine stopped near the last corner there. I'm not sure what that was about, but he appears to be some distance down on the rest of the field in position 24.
That's interesting. He's just pulled it over. He didn't crash. He's actually just pulled that over. So we might go back and take a look and see if we can figure out just what's happened prior to that. We've got a nice little pack here, though, just starting to build up behind Dale Horn. Zach Vlietstra, Tim Pattinson, Manuel Dodger, and Ben Christian, all within just a couple of seconds of each other. I will note, as I watch the intro video tonight for TRL, this is probably a little bit contentious, but I reckon Zach Vlietstra probably the best intro sequence, intro moment of any driver on track. If you don't believe me, after the race, not now, you don't want to miss anything, but after the race, go back and take a look at that intro movie again, and take a look at Zach Vliestra's. Just try and tell me that his is not the most impressive little sequence in that movie.
I'll make sure to keep an eye out for it next time I watch. As I was saying that, I thought Murray was going to start to pull away from Weber. Weber's begun to pull the gap back. He's now only 0.4 seconds back. Starting to get a little bit hairy for Chris Murray here, and Nicholas Heath is going to be sitting back there in 3rd place, rubbing his hands together. Excellent.
Just wait and watch for it. That's absolutely the way to go. So Jordan Nelson's come out of pit lane only a little before this has happened by the look of things. It's come down the hill, taps that curb, and that of course spins him around. Ends up off track, and then I think he might have just been waiting for the pack to go past, perhaps, from the shot we saw before. It's interesting because he actually ended up on the other side of the track and stopped it here. And I just wonder if that was just to allow the rest of the field to kind of come through unhindered.
I think he may have also possibly realized that he just missed the pit entry if he was intending to come in.
Yeah, maybe. It's a bit of an odd one. But, you know, these things happen, and I'm sure we'll figure it out.
I've missed that pit entry a number of times. I will leave my commentary of the last 2 corners at Laguna Seca. I'll make it simple. I hate them.
Yeah, look, they're not easy to get right. That I find the most difficult is the turn coming down the hill from the Corkscrew. That long left-hander that just doesn't quite seem to make sense as to where the apex is on that one. It gets me every time. I think I nail it once out of about 30 laps. And maybe that's more a commentary on my capability than anything else, Boone, but it's a tough track.
In my opinion, nailing that corner 1 out of every 30 times is pretty good. Anything between the end of the Corkscrew and the start of the Andretti hairpin for me, I just sort of try to block out of my memory. I don't like it.
Zach Vlietstra having a bit of an issue at exactly the same point. Just goes to show just how tricky that turn is. Keep in mind that we should be getting a bit of temperature into these tyres by this point, so it shouldn't be a tyre temp issue. It's just these guys are pushing really, really hard, and the particular combination on that corner of high speed, high load on the tyres, and a little bit of elevation change can unweight the cars here so very easily. We'll look back to the front though, because it's the front runners start to catch a lapped car here. That is Brodie Daff, who is finding himself surrounded by the front three, Murray, Webber and Heath, and it looks as though that's actually brought them back together a bit here. So we're facing a pretty tight three-way battle for the lead at the moment. The question will be who can actually hold on to it. We've still got 31 laps to go, so it's very early days, but all of a sudden not such a big lead for Murray. Webber's right there in it. Nicholas Heath's done a brilliant job to catch up to them. And then 3.5 seconds back to Shannon Corbett, who, if you look carefully, you'll just see that pink Ferrari poking its nose into the back of shot as these guys reach the next corner.
And plenty of camera time for Daff as well in this little battle.
And it's one way to do it, isn't it?
I think so. As Nicholas Heath now starting to pressure Matt Webber just a little bit. This battle, they're all brought back together here in the top three. This battle is going to be tight coming into the Corkscrew. We could start to see fireworks here within the next couple laps. I wonder if anyone's going to decide to maybe blink first, pit early, get out of here, try to preserve some track position, and just change up the strategy a little bit.
And speaking of strategy, I noticed Ben Christian is into the pits. So maybe an early approach. Matt, I might come to you for a bit of insight. 40 laps here. What's the pit strategy you were intending to bring in? Where were you planning on putting it? Were you splitting it in two? Were you going for the early stop? Or is it just a case of calling it on the run?
For me, it's usually a case of calling it on the run. Taking tyres as well is always a good option, but it does leave you open for the overcut, where a car will not come in and they'll have far faster pace on with already warm tyres, because they do take a few laps to warm up. So for me, it depends on what happens. And we see Matt Webber going for a move down the inside, maybe.
Well, alongside, he's made that look easy in the end. Murray's going to do everything he can to fight it, but he's now going to watch Nicholas Heath, who's come charging in from behind for that corner. He sets him up self-nicely. This is a really dangerous spot to attempt to pass. I thought Nicholas Heath was going to try and push the issue there. He's made a very, very wise choice to back out of it.
He's going to have to go back at him through the corkscrew, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's thinking about it. Not quite alongside just there. That sharp left at the bottom of the hill is absolutely a death trap if you try and make a pass there. You've got to be so committed and so much faster than the car that you're trying to make a pass to it safely. There was no way Heath was surviving that.
And this is the last thing that Chris Murray... Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, we've got some lap traffic here too to make things a little bit more interesting as well.
Yeah,
let's just make it more hard, more challenging.
So Patrick Robinson is a black flag, still out of the car at the moment, a long way down. So I'm not sure what's happened to Robinson tonight to put him in that position. He had a very early off track, and from there it's all come undone. So back on looks like lap 3 or thereabouts. That he was still struggling, but he's just jumped to the pits relatively recently, although we don't have anything to indicate that he's had a particular incident. Fitzgerald's just set a 20.989 back in 14th. So I don't know what's happening from Chris Fitzgerald, but this bit of clean air that he's got back here, he's absolutely motoring.
The fuel load starts to run down for these cars. We're going to see more and more time start to get down into that range. I want to focus on Chris Murray again for just a second, though. That gap's now at nearly a second, about 0.9, and Nicholas Heath is right on his bumper. He's only a fifth of a second behind. This is the last thing in the world that Chris Murray wants right now. He sees Matt Webber disappearing off into the distance with that championship lead, and he's having to drive through his mirrors to keep Nicholas Heath behind him for P2.
And this is where the strategy side of it comes into play, right? If you're Chris Murray, is it potentially better, rather than worrying about defending and battling this Heath, potentially better knowing that there's a stop for everyone involved at some point tonight to let Heath go through, just tack in behind and take the free toe to try and catch up to Webber while Heath has that extra speed, and then just wait for him to chew through the tyres a bit and start to drop off the pace before you take the spot back, even through a pit stop, go for the overcut or the undercut. Matt, thoughts?
If I was in Chris Murray's position right now, I would actually be considering an early pit stop. I've already lost the position to Webber. Webber realistically may just walk away with this one, so if I'm in his shoes, I'm probably thinking I have to do something different, maybe go for the undercut and try and get ahead of him back that way.
We go on board with Lewis Mahaja, sitting in 12th at the moment, a long way down from where he started after that spin through the first hairpin on lap 1. Zach Leitrim picks up a black flag as well. I'm actually a little surprised at how quickly these incident points are racking up. I know it's a tight, tough track, but there's some guys out there that are really chewing through them tonight.
It's so easy to pick up just off tracks here. You can pick up multiple off tracks in a lap. Do that twice and suddenly you've got a 4X. Have an incidental car contact, suddenly you've got an 8X, and that can accrue in just the span of 2 to 3 laps. And it's as Matt Weber now breaks into the 120.957 range up front. It's just so easy to accrue incident points, to accrue contact here. You have to be so careful to keep it away from everyone.
Pattinson and Daft go side by side through the first hairpin. Pattinson finds himself out very wide, but he'll set up nicely for the run into the right-hander as they come around the corner and underneath the Firestone tyre bridge. Pattinson just having to back it off a little bit too much, so he'll drop in behind and start to set up. Fitzgerald at 20.79 on that last lap. He continues to improve that pace lap after lap after lap. The question is, can he keep doing it once he actually reaches Lucas Blake ahead of him?
As Daft goes around there, he has a little bit of a wiggle and he just can't get that Ferrari saved. He's going to wait for the pack to come back around and hopefully re-emerge. He's going to keep waiting.
It's a long wait. The cars come through there at such a rapid rate that you have to time it to perfection or just wait it out. As we see,
that was the right move.
Down. And into the corkscrew once again. The sparks fly as they bottom out through the base of the corkscrew. And this left-hander, my least favourite corner on this track, Hallinan showing us how it's done. I wish I could replicate it. I really do. Maybe occasionally I'll get away with that. David Noden, we were talking about this a little earlier, Boone. You know, he's been pretty quick, but just struggling to find the results at the moment. Though he's really nicely placed.
He's on for one of his best results of the season right now, and he's had flashes throughout this season. Nearly every race, it seems like we have a few laps where we're focused on David Noden as one to watch, but for some reason, one reason or another, the run hasn't seemed to materialize for him this season. Hopefully he'll have better luck tonight. I did want to ask a quick strategy question of Matt here. As we get closer into the pit window, as we see more cars start to come in, we saw Zach Leedstrick come back out onto the track in 19th place last lap. Matt, do you think that a one-stop strategy or a two-stop strategy is going to be more effective for the rest of the race?
One stop without question. Once you pit, you'll have enough fuel to make it to the end, and you'll just lose way too much time if you actually try to stop. The tyre delta differential with such a short race is not going to be enough to make that two-stop.
Down the hill they come again. Hallinan doing a lovely job right now, just being super consistent. He's covering his lines really nicely. Noden, though, not letting up at all. Stuck at around that 3/10 mark. He's not pushing too much closer, but he's certainly not losing any time on the way around. Hallinan had a great final turn there, and he picks up another 10th or so. It's not going to be enough to really stretch the legs and give him some breathing room. But have a look at the difference in pace. These guys are lapping in the 22s and a fair way into the 22s. Out in front, Matt Weber, his last lap at 21.11 after his best lap at 20.96. Chris Fitzgerald at 20.4 now. This guy is absolutely moving. I don't know what it is exactly that he's found, but that McLaren is 100% on song here tonight. It's a real shame that he's not further up through the field at this point.
Well, Fitzgerald's in a massive pocket of clean air right now. He's almost 6 seconds back from Lucas Blake at the moment. I imagine as he closes in on the back of these cars ahead of De La Rosa, Blake, he's going to start to lose a little bit of that pace, but at the moment, Fitzgerald is just flying. He's taken, while we've just been talking about him, he's taken 6/10 out of Lucas Blake.
That's massive. Now, Chris Murray has just gone past Matt Webber. I think there's been an error from Matt Webber there because he was out in front by a good 2 seconds. I think Webber's finally just shown us that he's human and had a bit of a moment. Let's go back and just check on the pass. But as Murray comes through, yeah, Webber's just run it wide on the way up the hill to the corkscrew, and Murray around the outside says, "Thank you very much, I'll take that." waltzes on through and back to the lead of this race. And once again, we have a very, very tight battle. This time, though, the roles reverse. Murray looking to extend out in front, while Webber will have his mirrors full of a Nicholas Heath McLaren as we reach the 16th lap of this 40-lap race here at Laguna Seca.
This is an absolute gift for Murray right now, and he cannot afford to waste it. He needs to put his foot down and get out of here and hope that Nicholas Heath can put the pressure on Matt Webber as Webber runs wide there again in the same place. Not so bad this time. He's going to keep Heath behind, but he's going to be all over his back bumper, and that is what Chris Murray likes to see.
See just the intensity at which the drivers take that corkscrew. That cut of the track on the inside, I reckon that was about as close as you can get on the bottom corner of that corkscrew without actually picking up a slowdown. Chris Murray throwing everything at us to try and just break the gap back to Matt Webber and leave these two behind. Lewis Bahaja, I tell you what, this guy cannot catch a break. Comes down into the final turn and slides it around, and lucky to not get any contact from those last few cars going through, but he's actually jumped through to the pits there. I don't know if we'll see him back on track tonight, or if he's having some sort of technical issues or something like that. Surprised to see him back in the pits rather than trying to get moving again. I didn't see any damage.
It was a really awkward place for him to spin out, just past the pit entry, right in the middle of the track there, turned backwards. It's just not been his night. It's been a very, very rough time for Lewis Buhajar, now down in 24th position. I hope we'll see him out on track again, but I'm not sure we will either. Matt Webber not going away for second place here. He's closed the gap back down to about 0.4 of a second to Murray. He's going to be in the slipstream here as they go through the corkscrew. He's going to be close.
The question is, what can he make of it? He's going to have to stay very, very tight there to try and get a bit of a run and set up for the final hairpin and then a run up that straight as we get towards the start-finish line. Let's see what the difference in line here is. Really just glued to that same line. Doesn't want to waste any of the aero advantage of being in behind Murray. Still at 3 and a bit tenths. Not managing to pull it in too much, but here it starts to fall away. He's not going to be close enough this time around, but look at how much wider Murray is, Webber rather, is taking that corner than Chris Murray, really opening it up as much as he possibly can. Murray, for his part, probably thinking about sitting in just a little, just to make sure that there's no minor opportunity for Webber to just try and squeeze the nose in. But Murray's had a great run through that sequence and extends out. He's now out to 7/10, so all of a sudden doubles that lead. Nicholas Heath, for his part, starting to reel Webber back in. This is almost far enough for Murray to start to just break the toe and pull away. I don't know if he's going to quite get there though. Webber has a brilliant run up the hill. Murray probably having a slightly slower run of it as well, and all of a sudden that gap just disappears again.
It just goes to show how quickly momentum can appear and then disappear here at Laguna Seca. You get a bad run through one corner, with the way this track flows, it compounds into 2, 3, 4 corners past that, and suddenly you're down half a second. Then you get a good run through one corner and it all comes right back to you.
We go to this battle a little bit further back for ninth. Fitzgerald, Blake and De La Rosa up in it, and Chris Fitzgerald just continuing to put in some pretty quick laps. He's slowed right down as a result of just catching up to this traffic, but he's made his way past Lucas Blake already and is starting to continue his push forward towards Stephen Scully. It's a long way to go now. Jeremy Newton has had a big moment. He's run off track and picked up a meatball. Let's have a look at this one and see just what's happened. Any contact, or is he just, just loses a little bit too much and into the barriers? There's going to be a fair bit of damage. You can see the rear right of that Lamborghini looking a little worse for wear after the contact with the wall.
Speaking of right rears, I'd like to point out that Lucas Blake has moved past Joe De La Rosa at some point in that little fracas with Chris Fitzgerald as well. Fitzgerald has moved into 9th, De La Rosa's gone down to 11th. Lucas Blake has stayed in 10th between them.
Go back and have a quick look at that, because it seems to have happened in pretty quick succession. Fitzgerald ahead goes past De La Rosa. De La Rosa just run a bit wide there. It doesn't cost him much speed, but it's certainly enough when you're in such close quarters to lose a couple of spots. very, very quickly, and so Wade goes through as well, and De La Rosa finds himself off the back of this rapidly widening trio. Chris Murray is into the pits. Taking that pit stop now, Webber and Heath continue.
I was going to say I thought that was a good idea. My strategy for Chris Murray would have been, as soon as Webber started to really seriously threaten him or got past him at all, I would pit immediately as soon as I could. I'm not sure if Webber did get past him or not, but we're about at the window. We're exactly halfway through this race. We're about at the window where we're going to see most of the field start to pit, I think.
Yeah, there won't be too much longer left in this. Martin Cullen's in from 8th as well, so they've just been trickling through. The leader on track at the moment of those who have made their pit stop is Oscar Dobbins. However, Chris Murray's about to come back out. He's finished his pit stop 19.5 seconds in the bay, and he should be only about another 10 seconds or so from getting out of what is a very, very long pit lane here. It's almost a full lap's worth of time you end up spending in there. But from a driver's perspective, Matt, just how frustrating is this sort of pit lane?
It can be frustrating. Not only that, but the exit as well. Very, very tight. It's a hairpin at the end exit as well. It's a nightmare.
It's certainly not one of my favourites in there, and really anything they particularly on pit lane. It's one of those things that just seems to take forever, particularly if your pit box is at the back of the pit lane, just slowly puttering on past all of the other teams sitting there waiting for their drivers to come in. And it feels like a lifetime as the cars come past you with full noise on the straight, just the other side of a very small wall. And Laguna Seca adding in that hairpin at the bottom as well. Just it's insult to injury almost, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I am very curious to see though, because from what it looked like on my screen, Chris Murray did not take tyres. Like that was a very quick pit stop, and it didn't look like he took tyres. So we'll see where he comes out with that with warm tyres, and whether or not Webber or even Heath do end up taking tyres.
Well, let's talk tyres for a moment. Ordinarily speaking, when it comes to GT3s, I generally don't expect drivers will take time for tyres for anything less than at least an hour or two of racing before you sort of shed those tyres as perhaps starting to get a little worn. You know, we're talking a relatively short race here in GT3 terms, about an hour end to end every week. The tyres at this point really make that much difference when you consider the 3 or 4 laps that it takes to get it back up to tempo, back up to speed, as we see Matt Webber come into the pits. So watch carefully now for Chris Murray to catch him.
They definitely can make a difference, and the track temperature will be a massive factor in that. At the moment, track temperature is 22 degrees, so there won't be a whole lot of tyre wear going on. So I suspect pretty much every single driver will probably err on the side of not taking them. But if that track temperature is up in the 40s or even as high as 50, like we saw at Virginia in Season 0, taking tyres is almost a necessity, because by the end of it, you'll be losing so much time that the time you would have lost warming them up is offset.
We've got Matt Webber coming out of the pit box now. He is... There goes Murray around the outside of him.
Stuck behind Greg Goodfellow, who is just ahead of the pit lane. So that is Webber right behind as he ducks out from behind his teammate. But Murray goes through. Matt Webber lost an entire extra second there in the pit box. 19.58 in the box for Murray, 20.58 for Webber. And that sees Chris Murray with a handy little 4/10 lead. And look, I say only 18 laps to defend it, but that's going to feel like an eternity, I suspect, for both Murray and Webber as they battle this out. Nicholas Heath has been enjoying a bit of a clear run out there in front, but he's come in now, so the real question will be, where does he appear in amongst these two? Is he going to find himself right in the middle, I wonder?
It could be exciting. He has the potential to completely throw a wrench in the plans of both championship protagonists here. If you're Matt Webber, you want to get this move done as soon as possible. You have a natural instinct as a racer to try to push ahead, but I think he should almost err on the side of caution a little bit. You still have 18 laps to go. He's shown that he has the pace to drive up to Murray's back bumper pretty easily here on the long runs. He's struggled a little bit with getting the pass done, but he doesn't struggle with creating opportunities. I think Webber needs to stay patient, and the right opportunity will come to him.
But here comes Nicholas Heath. He's on that pit lane, 20 metres the difference. He's going to have a much tighter turn, but this is going to be really, really close. Heath has come out ahead, and by quite some distance. What a great stop for Nicholas Heath. 18.47 in the pit box. He cut another second out of Chris Murray's time in the box, and that has made all the difference. Nicholas Heath now holding almost a second gap to Chris Murray in second place, 7/10 further back to Matt Webber. And gentlemen, we have a real podium fight on our hands for the second half of this race.
That is just incredible from Nicholas Heath. That is one of the best pit strategy calls, or the best pit strategy executions that we've seen all season, because I don't think he really did anything special on the strategy. I think he just hit his marks perfectly.
Yeah, even his lap time, I noted wasn't anything particularly special while he was out there on his own, as Murray and Webber made their stops a little bit earlier. You know, he was still running along at a decent pace, but he was in the low 21s. You know, it's not like he's all of a sudden found low 20s for a couple of laps and that's where he's made this pace up. It really is just a brilliant pit stop. He's gotten in and out so quickly, and look at that gap. It's going to be a massive piece of work for Murray to actually try and close that in. He's going to be getting pretty well no aero assistance from that far back. He's going to have to be very, very brave on the brakes in just about every turn and try and just claw back a 10th here, 100th there. And that's what it's going to take to catch Nicholas Heath now.
It's an unenviable position for Murray to be in, because in my opinion at least, and I'll throw this over to Matt in a second, but in my opinion, when you're in one of these three-car battles, you never want to be in second because you have to worry about both attacking and defending. So Matt, my question to you from a more skilled road racer's perspective, what would you do here if you're Chris Murray? How do you try to break out of this sort of box that you're in between these two drivers?
If I'm Murray, I'm just focusing purely on the car in front, trying to put as much pressure on him as possible and hope that he makes a mistake. I mean, we know that Matt Webber is probably the quickest driver out there, and we see him almost dive down the inside. But yeah, if I'm Murray, I just need to put pressure on Nick Heath and hope that he makes a mistake.
This gives us a great view from Matt Webber's car of the battle up ahead of him, and although it does look like a fair bit of distance, it's really not much of an error that's going to cause these guys to get closed right back up again. So the pressure all on Nicholas Heath. He doesn't get the best exit at that final turn. A bit of debris on the track, just perhaps slowing him down with a little less traction. Look at Murray charge down. He's found an extra 2-3 in just that front straight alone, and all of a sudden Murray right on the rear bar of Nicholas Heath. Webber, for his part, starting to close up on Murray as well, although you see that gap start to extend back out as we get back out onto another lap here of Laguna Seca. Webber is just, he just doesn't have that extra pace once the tyres get warm. It really does level the playing field, and I think the best thing that Murray and Heath have done tonight is to just manage to stick with Webber for those first few laps.
They've done a great job of it, especially Nicholas Heath coming out of the pits and actually managing to extend that gap a little bit when he was on colder tires than both of the two cars behind him. Now for Matt Webber, we had a little bit of an incident for Chris Murray there, running wide, and Webber's going to have a bit of a look coming off the corkscrew. I'm not sure if he's going to be close enough to do anything, but it's certainly going to be filling Chris Murray's mirrors, and he's going to be thinking about it. If I'm Webber here, I might try a little bit of a dummy just to maybe get him off of his line, get him out of position, and see if I can force a mistake. As he's doing this back inside.
What a move from Webber. Just shuts the door in front of Murray. That was absolutely brilliant. Textbook pass into the hairpin.
Come back here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to actually control. And look at how defensive Webber has gone on that turn. He's absolutely hugged the inside of it to make sure that he cements that spot. Murray was charging up behind him, but with that move, Webber just picks up that extra spot, and now the pressure all on Murray to try and make the pass again. Let's take another look. That was an absolutely beautiful move. Look at this. Immediately just flicks it to the inside, late on the brakes, and nowhere at all for Chris Murray to go. He has to just stick to the outside, and Webber gets his nose just far enough ahead, or indeed the back of his car just far enough ahead of Chris Murray's nose to come across and absolutely slam the door shut on the exit of the hairpin. Wonderful move from Matt Webber.
Wonderful move with championship implications. Weber puts himself back into second. Of course, he's still about 1.3 seconds behind Nicholas Heath, but that doesn't matter so much to Weber. The important thing for him is that he is ahead of Chris Murray. A finish ahead of Murray here is going to make it even more difficult for Murray to pull anything back in the last 2 rounds of the championship. So if I'm Matt Weber, I'm completely happy with second place in this race, as long as Chris Murray isn't in first.
It does kind of get to that point, doesn't it, where you start just thinking about your finishing position purely in terms of relative to your nearest championship competitor. The points don't matter as long as you're getting more than them.
Oh, at this point in the season, Weber's kind of done it all. He's got multiple poles, he's got multiple wins, he's probably led the most laps out of anyone. It's the one thing left for him to secure this season is the championship. He's on the verge of doing it. I think if he gets a good result here, he'll be mathematically able to clinch it next week. That's
quickly, won't it?
That's where all of his focus should be, in my opinion. Not that I have a lot of experience competing for championships, but if I could armchair manage Matt Weber here for a little bit, focus on the championship, Matt.
Nothing wrong with armchair management. That's what we're here for, ultimately, isn't it? Just to give our opinions from the side of the track where we don't have to put ourselves through the stress and pain of actually out there racing. It's a pretty comfy spot up here in the booth. We hope you're enjoying the coverage, folks. Give us a shout. Who do you think is going to walk away with this one? Will it be Nicholas Heath that manages to take the win tonight? We're getting down to, 13 odd laps to go here. And I don't know if we're going to see, could this be Nicholas Heath's first round win for the season?
It could be, and I kind of hope it is. But I don't want to get out ahead of ourselves yet. Matt Weber, over the course of about the last lap, has taken approximately 6/10 of time out of Nicholas Heath. He's now only about 6/10 back. Obviously, those last 6/10 are the hardest to get. The overtake is going to be the hardest part to do. But Weber is going to be all over him. He's probably going to have about 10 laps to do the move. It's going to be a masterpiece of defense if Nicholas Heath can hold on to this one.
This is the view back from Nicholas Heath McLaren. Weber looking a lot further back right there, but as always, objects mirror up closer than they appear. Is the mantra here, and have a look at Weber just start to close that up again on the brakes. He's absolutely just finding those little increments every single turn. He's got everything he does and extends up the hill. Gets a really, really good run through there, and just loves that run.
The McLarens have been fast throughout this race. Again, earlier in the race, we saw a few McLarens. We saw Chris Fitzgerald setting some incredibly fast times on the first stint. It's a car that it's been mired in the mid-pack for most of its drivers today, but it's got a lot of pace. It's got a lot of potential. We saw it with Lewis Buhadra earlier. We saw it with Chris Fitzgerald in the middle of the race, and we're seeing it with Nicholas Heath now. That McLaren is very racy as he's extended that gap back out now to about 0.8 seconds on Matt Weber. He's not making it easy for him.
Other drivers that are having a really nice run. David Noden, the Aston Martin, behaving pretty well for him at the moment. He's up 8 spots since the start. A very, very solid improvement, and he's all over the back of Daniel Vellicott's Mustang at this stage. But a bit of traffic ahead as we look forward. A lapped car just to get out of the way. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might be Matt. The front, and then that's Brody Daff as well.
It's certainly one of the Sendon McLarens. They all kind of look the same, and they're all in a big line right now, so they're very difficult to tell apart.
The team liveries, honestly, it's great for photos, don't get me wrong, but it does make our job a little more difficult. I've always found, Boone, I don't know about you, but a lot of teams I know run different coloured wheels to just be able to spot the difference between drivers. I've never found that particularly helpful to me, honestly.
I come from oval racing, and the way they do it there is that different cars just have completely different liveries, and maybe your number font's the same, and that's how you tell they're on the same team, or you have the same team sticker somewhere on the car, but you have your own sponsors and your own colorway and your own livery, and it's very easy to tell. Every car and every team has its own distinct identity. That's one of the things that I like about NASCAR compared to, say, Formula One, where the focus is more on the branding of the team, and it's like Alfa Romeo Stake, Rainbet Gambling Casino F1 team, whatever they're called now.
Look, I think that's pretty close, isn't it? That's the latest group of sponsors for them. Nicholas Heath's really starting to give up some time here. Weber, 2.5 seconds back to Murray. Murray has dropped well off the back of this fight, and so looks at this stage to be on track for a lower podium finish. Webber, though, is still pushing on. Nicholas Heath doing a fantastic job, and this will be where he's been picking up a little bit of time every single time. This time around, though, Webber matches him through that left-hander and up the hill. And Nicholas Heath under immense pressure as Webber just pushes that little bit harder every single corner. Some of them he's losing a couple of hundredths, but others he's gaining, a full tenth on. And it's a real battle at the moment for Heath to just maintain this gap back to Webber. The other thing to consider, of course, is that Webber may well be just putting in and applying enough pressure that he's hoping to see a mistake from Heath, but also just to keep an eye on Heath and to try and pick out the weaknesses that Heath might have around this particular track. I reckon he's probably got one peg there through that first hairpin, because that seems to be where Webber continues to just pull the most gains each and every lap. Rob Tilley just confirming in the chat that he is sending thoughts and prayers for Nicholas Heath's USB connection. It would be a pretty anticlimactic way for this battle to end, wouldn't it be?
It's been something that we've seen before for Nicholas Heath this season, so I don't even really want to talk about it for fear that it could happen again.
Let's not put the mocker on him,
Yeah, let's talk about something else. If I'm Matt Webber here, the place where I want to set this overtake up is probably coming into the last corner, the same place where he passed Chris Murray. He's got incredible pace there. Sometimes he struggles a little bit relative to Heath coming up the hill and down through the corkscrew, but if he can get a good run through there and get on his bumper, I will want to just send it as late braking as possible into that last corner and see if I can either make it stick or get a mistake out of Heath.
And Matt, so you're sitting here in the booth with us watching this go on. What's your take on the drive so far from those cars up the front? Indeed, everyone in the pack, as we see Noda really closing in on Velikov. Just can't quite find a way. Starts to think about sending the nose up the inside of the corkscrew. Can't quite get it there. Looks for the over flat. Yeah, nothing on the way back either. So almost had him there. Is it tough to watch this and know that you could be out there putting in these sort of lap times, or these guys racing pretty hard and fast, and maybe it's not such a bad thing to be having a breather this week?
I'm pretty happy to sit this one out. This is some incredible racing, and I'm in awe at how both Heath, Webber, and Murray have all driven today. It's just, as a racing fan, I love this. And Jordan Nelson going wide as well. Just didn't quite see it on the broadcast, but he just went wide just as Nick Heath went through. So nearly getting tangled up there. There's a fair bit of lap traffic ahead that might just make things a little bit more interesting here.
It looks as though, actually based on that, it looks as though he's actually had a massive disconnection there. What we see on the pictures when that does happen, it looks as though he's actually gone well off track, and whether he's had a bit of a connection issue, that's really disappointing for Jordan Nelson, but he'll get back out there and try and get going. Okay, now I've heard this before, Mev. It was Cruz McVee's birthday earlier this week, wasn't it? And are you back saying happy birthday to Cruz again just because you can, or what? Because he's not here tonight racing, but I appreciate it all the same. Welcome on back. What happened to Lewis and Jeremy? What didn't happen to Lewis tonight, Rob? Unfortunately, Lewis Bahaja has had one of those nights that he seems to have so often at the moment, but it's just continued, and I think what we've seen is that Bahaja had just that one last incident was enough for him to decide that tonight was not going to go his way. Jeremy Newton, for his part, had a massive off in the Lamborghini. We'll go back and take another look at that. Just overcrooks the rear tyres, trying to get a pass up the inside, and then heavy hit on both ends into the tyre barriers. And unfortunately, you can see the rear right just drop away there. Massive rear end suspension damage. And look, whether he has perhaps forgotten to hit the fast repair button, I'm not sure, but he did end up spending just over 3.5 minutes in the pits getting some repairs done. So yeah, unfortunately, it is going to leave a long way down in in the pack. And at some point, I think he decided, that's just it for his evening.
Weber has a little bit of a run coming down into the Andretti hairpin. He might try to send it here late on the brakes. Nicholas Heath goes defensive down the inside, clamps it down to the inside curb, and he says no way. He shuts the door. Good work by Nicholas Heath there to go defensive. Keeps Matt Weber at bay for the time being. It looked like Weber would have a run there.
Big wiggle on the way out, though, from Heath. Somehow,
Could
though...
still have a run.
Yeah, somehow Heath, despite the massive wiggle on the way out of that corner, he still managed to maintain gap, and so it's kept ahead of Weber by about that half second still. Nicholas Heath is absolutely killing it out there tonight. Out to 6/10 on the way up the hill. Weber's going to pull a little bit back here, but 6 laps to go. The pressure's starting to build, I'm sure, on Nicholas Heath. He can smell that wind waiting for him, but this is where the pressure can start to cause a driver to just overcook things and start to make a few mistakes. Yeah, absolutely, he'll be sweating bullets, Rob.
This is the situation as a driver, though, that you dream of, I think. We've got Nicholas Heath. He's 6 laps away from securing his first win of the season on the road side of things. The championship leader behind him, but so far Heath is doing a great job of holding him off.
Oscar Dobbins.
These two drivers...
Trying to go defensive here with Fitzgerald all over the back end of Dobbins' Mercedes. Chris Fitzgerald still down 5 spots, since the start, but he's been really just jamming keen to pull his way back up through the field. We'll jump ahead though, because again, Weber's mounted another attack and he's got it back down to just a few tenths. Nicholas Heath, I think the only thing keeping him in this at the moment is how strong he is from about this point through to the corkscrew.
I think so. I think part of it's just the McLaren is a better balanced car. Not this time, though, as we're talking about it as Weber. It's a great run up the hill there. Heath is going to have to struggle to defend into the corkscrew. I think Weber's still going to be too far back to go for something in the corkscrew this lap, but look for him to try to set it up into maybe the last corner or the Andretti hairpin if he can get a good run.
Speaking of good runs, Heath just pulled another half second through the corkscrew like it was nothing. That McLaren is just sticking no matter what he throws at it. I've got to imagine that Heath is on the very, very edge of what that McLaren is actually capable of. I'm a little concerned that he's going to just ask it for a little bit more at some point. It's going to end up with him coming off track in a really, really big way. I hope it doesn't, but it's got to be close to it. Matt, talk to me. Looking at how Heath's driving here, he looks pretty composed. Are you seeing any signs that this McLaren's on the edge of faltering, or is he actually just really, really well balanced at the moment?
I think he's just really, really well balanced. You look at Heath's fastest time was a 21.1. His last lap time was 21.4, so there's definitely some time to be had. So I don't quite think he's right on the limit just yet, as we see him pull away just a little bit further again. You also touched on before how he's got the pace on Weber through this section of the track. If we look back, we remember that Weber actually hit that curb on the inside on the left-hander and then just ran off. Do you think maybe there might be just a little bit of hesitation through there to not make that mistake again and send himself into a wall and potentially ruin his championship hopes?
That's a really good point, actually. That was all the way back on sort of about lap 5 or 6, I think, from memory. And you're spot on. I'd actually forgotten about that. Weber has really been taking pains to avoid that nasty sausage curb on the inside of that turn, and it's really costing him lap after lap after lap. And the worst part of it is that you really do need a good run up to the corkscrew to set yourself up for a pass down the main straight here, half a lap later. And if Weber's not doing that, as you see him catch a huge amount under brakes there, think about that same situation though if he hadn't been losing the time on the way up the hill towards corkscrew every lap. He would have been right there alongside Heath on that lap and ready to take a run out. Have a look at this one very carefully. Half a second here. Watch the gap over the next few turns. You can see here that I can predict it now. Matt Webber's going to just prove me completely wrong. He's going to have the most blistering run that he's had all race through this section. But you can see there, again, just loses those couple of hundredths on the way through that corner. Heath is just pushing he's just pushing harder at the moment in that particular part of the track.
It's such an important part of the track too. Weber has been, I think, quicker on 90% of this track, but Heath has 1 or 2 corners down, and he's able to get such a good run through all the good overtaking zones, through the corkscrew, through the final corner, and into the Andretti hairpin, that Weber has very rarely been able to get close enough to even attempt an overtake.
And again, he comes out of the final turn maintaining that half-second gap. That'll come down to 3.5, 4 tenths by the time they run to the end of the straight here, but Weber's just not close enough to make anything of it yet, is he?
No, and he's running out of time to do it. He's only going to have 3 more laps counting this one. We talked a little bit earlier about how he might just be probing Heath, trying to exploit any weaknesses that he can find, just waiting for a mistake maybe. The time to wait for mistakes is over, and the time to look for weaknesses is over. You need to try to make a move right now if you're Matt Weber, or be content with second place.
And look, like we said earlier, Weber's not going to be disappointed, surely, with a second place here tonight, particularly given how well Heath has been driving all night. But it's just it's not in the nature to it's just not in the nature to sit back and be happy with the second place as a race driver, is it?
No, but I think that could be a little bit of a subconscious motivation for these two drivers, especially coming over that curb. I think Heath might just be pushing a little bit harder because this win would just be a little bit more meaningful to him than it would be to Matt Weber at this stage in the season.
I can't relate. I'll take anything I can get any time, honestly. It's all going to be great because there's such a rare thing for some of us. Heath has had a brilliant season right throughout. He's got 2 laps to go now. And unless Weber can find something really special, or the McLaren's tyres decide to give up at the last minute, you've got to think that Heath's almost home.
There's a bit of a lunge there coming in, and Weber's going to be fairly close here. He's going to be within 3 tenths. It's going to be really important for Heath to get one last great run up the hill here into the corkscrew. Otherwise, he might leave himself at risk for an overtake into the Andretti hairpin at the beginning of the final lap. I think if Weber's going to do it, that's going to be the place where he does it. That's going to be his last chance.
We've been so focused on this battle up here. I just want to go back to something that Matt Searle in the booth with us mentioned a little earlier, was just how brilliant the driver's been from these front 3, Heath, Weber and Chris Murray, who he's almost 3 seconds back from these two at the moment, but that is nothing compared to the 30-second gap between Murray and Corbett. Let's just put that in perspective. These 3 out in front have put almost that's pretty close to a half a lap of distance on the rest of the field. That is mind-boggling, and that's before you even consider, look at the rest of the gaps down that tower. They're all multiple seconds. You get down to Oscar Dobbins, it's another 22 seconds. The front group, Matt Weber has lapped everyone up to Dale Horn on that tower. That is how insanely fast these guys are driving. As we enter the final lap, this is going to be the last chance for Matt Weber to make this move. I don't think he's close enough. I think already he's too far back.
He needs a good run, or maybe a small mistake from Nicholas Heath coming up the hill or into the corkscrew. I think at this point the only place he's going to have to do it might be the last corner of the track, and that's a very difficult overtaking zone, but we saw him do it to Chris Murray. I don't know if he even wants this overtake though. Honestly, at this stage in the race, he's still going to see Chris Murray on his relative. He's not going to want to do anything risky, anything desperate at one of these dangerous final corners on the track that could put his championship hopes in jeopardy.
I think you're on the money here, and Nicholas Heath just needs to hold this together through these last couple of turns. Comes down through the corkscrew, the fast left-hander. He's starting to extend that gap. It touched a half a second there. It's still out to almost that amount. Matt Weber's not going to have any answers. One last attempt here from Weber. Can he extend it under brakes? We're going to see a big dive up the inside. We won't. And so Heath just needs to get the power down out of the final turn. And here he comes up the run towards there. The lights are flashing. Nicholas Heath takes his first season win for Right Rear Racing here at Laguna Seca. Weber 0.326 behind. Chris Murray a further 3 seconds back. Shannon Corbett, the next man on track in 4th, has just come out of the corkscrew now. An absolutely massive drive from the top 3. Hats off to all of them, boys.
hats off to all of them, but that was phenomenal from Nicholas Heath. I said about 12 laps ago when Matt Weber was 0.6 seconds behind him that I thought it was going to be a masterpiece if Heath was able to hang on to that win. He was able to hang on to it, and I will back those words up. That was a masterpiece from Nicholas Heath.
Corbett comes across the line in 4th. David Noden will cross the line in 5th. Then Stephen Scully ahead of Lucas Blake. Now, Martin Hallinan and Chris Fitzgerald need to be careful here because they've both got black flags. They're going to both have some pretty impressive penalties that will come from crossing the line with the black flag. Expect them to finish, do the quick numbers, but they're actually going to drop back to, I think, behind Oscar Dobbins. Let's stay ahead of Dale Horn here. Huge drive from all of these drivers tonight, but most of all, Nicholas Heath, who is just coming back around to the pits now. What an amazing drive for him. He will be absolutely stoked, and I'm sure we'll be having a chat to him in just a moment as well. A well-deserved first win. Don't take anything away, though, from Matt Weber or Chris Murray, because both of them had a great drive, and the finish being 33 seconds ahead of 4th place for Chris Murray just shows how far out in front these guys actually were the whole way. And Matt Weber, as he likes to do, just going to have a bit of fun with what's left in his tyres by the look of things.
Oh, it's a little bit of a subdued celebratory burnout.
Well, I mean, it was only
place.
second, to be fair.
I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, we'll
it's
allow
classy.
that.
It's tasteful.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the results now as we get to just the drivers getting out of the cars and coming to have a chat to us. Nicholas Heath takes his first season win ahead of Matt Weber and Chris Murray. Shannon Corbett 36.5 seconds behind the winner. Absolutely massive. 40 seconds back to David Noden, then Stephen Scully and Lucas Blake. Daniel Vellicott over a minute behind in 8th place. Considering what we saw in the qualifying times, it's hard to believe that those are the gaps that opened up. Oscar Dobbins comes home in 9th and Martin Hallinan in 10th, and the last man to finish on the lead lap is Chris Fitzgerald in 11th place. Dale Horn starts the list of drivers that ended up at least a lap down, and certainly a few issues for a number of drivers tonight along the way. It's not been a particularly clean night for everybody, but the front three will be very, very happy indeed, I'm sure. And we'll start off with Chris Murray. Welcome to the booth, Chris.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be back.
Mate, you were right there in amongst it for what was the longest time, and in the end just dropped off the back of that front battle. Was it intentional choice that you felt you were just risking a bit too much to try and stay with them, or just couldn't quite find that little bit of extra pace tonight?
Well, I knew Matt was going to be very quick and I wouldn't be able to catch up to Nicholas, so I thought I'd let Matt and Nick battle it up at front, and hopefully there was going to be a mistake or something, but I couldn't keep up with the guys. Something they did in the pits, check their fuel or something, I could not keep up. So yeah, congrats to Nicholas, he did very well. He outplayed us with his pit run.
Yeah, it was a brilliant pit run indeed. When we look back at the battle that you had with Weber throughout the early portion of that race, when was it that you realised that Nick was on his way? Because he did come from a fair way back in those early laps, and all of a sudden was right there with you guys. Did you actually see him coming, or just kind of showed up there?
For me, he just showed up after Matt passed me. I was like, oh, where'd he come from? So yeah, no, he did very well.
Mate, brilliant drive tonight. It still picks up a 3rd place, so can't be too unhappy with that. Anyone you want to say hi to before we let you go?
No, I'm all good, thank you.
Nice and easy. Chris, well done tonight. Congrats on the 3rd place.
Thank you.
And we go now to 2nd place. It was a hard-fought battle over what felt like, I reckon, about 30-odd laps, and I think that the only person sweating more than this man would probably be Nicholas Heath. But we'll start with Matt Weber. Matt, you're back with us again. In a bit of a twist, you're not taking out the win tonight, which we were almost predicting at first, but you really faced some stiff competition tonight.
Yeah, I did. I made an error in my second lap in quali, which was one of the 3 things I did wrong tonight. Was like 2 of the 3 things I did wrong tonight. Should have called it a bit better, but I must have made a quick little error and I can pop you P2. But then Chris and I took off for what seemed to be a good little gap to to Nicholas. I was like biding my time with Chris. I knew I had the pace, but I just couldn't risk the biscuit. So then I finally had that opportunity to stick it up the inside, which sort of got done. And then I was just going to like sort of try and build on that. And then I made an error up on the towards the Corkscrew. I hit that curb and brought Chris and Nicholas right back into it. And then eventually got back past Chris, and then I had an extra lap of fuel or so, which surprised me even. But then what really hurt me was coming back out of the pits, and my teammate of all people was dawdling down pit lane and just like cost me about 3 seconds. So that brought me out behind everyone, which really that was always going to be tough from there.
Yeah, look, not going to lie, we did actually see that happen on the broadcast. We were watching very, very closely as you came out, and then all of a sudden 2 TKR dash cars in a row, and you were probably not the one of those that you wanted to be at that point. But I guess that's one of those things in racing, isn't it? You've just got to take what you can, and the fact that you've come back to get so close in the end is really just testament to how fast the three of you were out in front tonight. I think all of us here in the booth, Boone and joined by Matt here tonight as well as a special guest, were just absolutely in awe of the pace of the front three tonight. A massive gap. So despite not getting the win, mate, you've put on a massive, massive drive tonight. Congratulations. Anyone to say hello to before we do let you go?
Oh, look, firstly, just congrats to Nicholas. Great race. We're pretty much at the same pace towards the end. The McLaren just sort of had a couple of exits that were quicker than the Mustang and just didn't give me an opportunity to stick it up anywhere. So good on him, well done, deserved it. And just, the usual suspects sponsors-wise, TKR Dash Racing, Dash Off-Road, and Lambert Fire Foods, and a small shout-out to Maxi.
Congratulations again on the result tonight. It's making you a pretty unbeatable prospect for the championship this season, but still a couple of rounds to go. We'll let you get on with it and start planning for next week, eh?
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
And last but certainly not least, we are joined in the booth for his first season win here with TRL, Nicholas Heath. Welcome on in, my friend.
Thanks. Jeez, what an exercise that was.
Was it just as difficult out there as it looked from up here? Because it did look like you were having to push pretty hard the whole way, despite it being a fairly composed car for you. You were certainly kept honest.
Yeah, I mean, once I kind of got into third place early on, I was just trying to just keep pace with Chris and Matt there ahead of me, and I was kind of surprised I was able to stay within a second or two kind of the entire time there. But kind of once I saw that the gap behind was about, got to 5 or 6 seconds pretty early on, I thought, oh well, if I keep it clean, I've kind of got a guaranteed third place here, and certainly not expecting to jump the 2 ahead at the pits and hold on for dear life for what felt like 20 laps, but quite a wild run.
And let's talk about your pit stop for just a moment. Super, super quick in and out. We didn't actually catch it on the broadcast, but was that just an absolutely picture perfect type pit stop where you just absolutely nailed your marks, nailed your launch out of there, or did you take a little less fuel and risk it there? Well, how did you get in and out so quickly?
To be honest, I have no idea. I thought I thought I broke a bit too early and put the limiter on, because it's like I almost forgot that the cones into the pit lane are past that sharp left turn into the pits. So I thought I went in a bit too slow, and then just relied on good old auto fuel and just gunned it when it was done. And I was surprised to be ahead by a second or two from Matt and Chris there. So and then Matt just kept me honest for the rest of the race, and I was just desperately hoping that I wouldn't make a mistake or take one of those inside red curbs somewhere and lose it all. But that was stressful, but I was quite happy to keep it composed at the end there.
Mate, absolutely a massive drive, brilliantly executed and super, super clean right throughout. Not only your first win of the season, but also the first time I can recall that a driver has ever actually thanked Autofuel for anything. So we've got a couple of firsts going on here tonight. Nick, congratulations! Some support for you out there in the chat. Rob Tilley just checking in to congratulate you as well, mate. A massive first win and very, very well deserved. Anyone you want to say hi to before we do wrap it all up?
No, just I'll leave it at that. I'm been sick all week with the chest infection, so I'm surprised I'm even racing tonight, to be honest. So yeah, I get to thank myself for turning up.
Mate, I think that's pretty fair, honestly. Congrats again, a brilliant way to win your first race for the season. We'll let you go and maybe get a bit of recovery done, hey?
Oh, thanks for that. Cheers.
Nicholas Heath takes the race win. Before we do wrap it all up, Matt Searle, a big thank you to you for dropping on into the booth tonight and having a chat to us. Any last thoughts from you on tonight's race that you want to share?
I think, like I said at the start of it, I'm happy to be here to watch what I thought was going to be an amazing race, but I don't think any of us really expected just how close that was for 40 laps of racing. It was incredible to watch. So shout out to pretty much everyone for putting on an absolute show for us today.
And mate, a massive thank you to you for being in the booth with us. Hopefully though, next week all of your issues are resolved and you're back out on track, and we maybe get to talk to you again from a podium step instead. Once more, thanks for dropping on in and giving us your insight.
Thanks for having me.
And Boone, over to you, mate. Laguna Seca, I tell you what, it always delivers, doesn't it?
It's always an exciting track, no matter what kind of car we have, no matter how big the field is. It delivered again today. I'm just still blown away by the pace that the top three exhibited all day. Obviously, we had great stories, great battles up and down the field, but those three were just really in a class of their own today.
Yeah, they certainly were. That, though, will bring round 8 of this Tasman Racing League Road Series to a close on what has been a massive night of racing for those front three particularly. Nicholas Heath, though, taking his first win, couldn't ask for much more than that. It's a brutal circuit at times, Laguna Seca, and tonight it has thankfully delivered us mostly clean of any major incidents, which is probably the biggest surprise out of all of it. A huge thank you to everybody who's been watching along at home tonight. It's always a pleasure bringing the Tasman Racing League nights to you here on Simple Racing Broadcast. If you're enjoying the GT3 racing, a little bit of a plug for a special event tomorrow night. 3 hours of Bathurst will be happening right here from, let me just get the times right, I want to say 7 p.m. daylight savings time, which will be 6 p.m. Queensland time, which will be, I think, about 8 o'clock or thereabouts New Zealand time. Boone, you want to have a stab at what that'll be for you?
It'll be when I'm at work. It's going to be work o'clock, I think, unfortunately.
Mate, you're going to have to find
that sounds like it's going to be right around. I work at Domino's. It's going to be hard.
Well, look, I have faith, mate.
We're not really in the technology era.
And look, if ever you needed a better incentive to come along and watch it, I won't actually be behind the mic tomorrow night. I'll be in a Porsche GTE doing my best to stay on track at Bathurst. So if you like a laugh, then absolutely get along and check it out, folks. Otherwise, we've got all the usual suspects lined up for next week from Monday night onwards. And we will, of course, be back again on Thursday night for round 9 with Tasman Racing League. My name's Jared Cole alongside Boone Blake. We'll see you next time as the series heads into the final stretch of the championship. Until then, though, it is goodbye for now.